Okay, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to UTS. My name is Blay, and I will be your MC for today. Okay, so I would like to announce the schedule for today. First, we are going to have Solitude Rinpoche for the talk, meditation in action, for about 15 minutes, and followed by 40 minutes Q&A session. And during the Q&A section, if you want to ask a question, please raise your hand, or you can write it on a piece of paper and pass it to one of our volunteers in the room. And before we start, please switch off all your mobile phones and try to avoid any unnecessary movements during the talk. Okay, so now I'm going to invite Rinpoche into the room. And may I ask everyone, please rise. And after when you see Rinpoche coming, please give him a big round of applause. Okay, thank you everyone. Please be seated. At this point in time, I would like to invite Professor Sang from the Faculty of Law in UTS to give us a welcome speech. Okay, welcome, Professor.
I think you can hear me. Well, welcome to the UTS. My name is Professor Sam Blay. I'm a professor of law at the UTS, and it's indeed my distinct pleasure and privilege to welcome Khenpo Sadoji Rinpoche to this institution. As most of you will know, Khenpo Sadoji is, of course, one of the most well-known and indeed the leading Tibetan Buddhist teacher in China today. It is indeed a great privilege to have you here with us at the UTS. And I must say, you come to the UTS at a very important time. Indeed, the topic for today at this talk couldn't be more timely. You come to talk to us about mediation in action. At a time when there is so much crisis in the world, this is a very appropriate topic. To most of us who are here today, perhaps Khenpo Sadoji does not really need an introduction. But if you permit me just to say a few words about you, your presence here, it will perhaps help for those of us who may not be that familiar. Khenpo Sadoji, in fact, before we started today's proceedings, there was something on the screen, and some of you would have already read a lot about him as we continue. He was born on the 4th day of the sixth month in the Tibetan calendar year in 1962. As in fact, a lot of you would have Googled him by now if you haven't. He, of course, graduated in 1985 at the Luranga Sita Buddhist Institute. You would also know that as part of his studies, he, of course, was mentored by no less than Khenpo Chipcha himself as part of his studies. And following that, after his graduation in 1985, he traveled the world over from, in fact, 1990 through to 1999. He was in the company of the great master himself, traveling through Canada, Germany, Malaysia, Singapore, Nepal, in fact, quite a number of countries, perhaps too many to mention at this stage. It's what makes his presence here quite important to all of us. As you perhaps also know, as part of his academic activities, he has published a lot and translated a lot of the Tibetan works into Chinese. Indeed, as we sat here waiting for him to come, you would have seen a lot of what was said on the screen, that one of his main contributions is how to bring Tibetan disciplines in Buddhism into Chinese. And so he's translated no less than 100 works into Chinese for Chinese citizens to understand and perhaps to follow the discipline better. Perhaps one of the points we should perhaps emphasize in his great works so far has been his charitable works. As you know, he set up the Love and Kindness, Love and Heart Foundation. Today in Shanghai, he's the honorable chair of the Love and Wisdom and Kindness Foundation in China as we talk. Perhaps we should remember the lessons which he teaches us in all his discussions. And if you will allow me, I'll just say a couple of things that he has said in his teachings. And I think it's quite important, particularly for today's discussions. In all his teachings, he's made one point very clear. And one point he makes is this: as long as we can benefit sentient beings, we should be willing to be his servant, as a servant of the Buddha, for millions and millions of eons, even if only one person could generate one virtuous thought through our efforts. But perhaps more importantly, and for the purposes of today's talk, this is one other point he makes, which I want to bring to your attention. He says, I don't know how long I can live, but as long as I live and can breathe, even if there is only one listener, I will try my best to bring benefit to him with Dhamma. Ladies and gentlemen, I say to Khenpo Sodoji today, even though he says he doesn't know how long he's going to live, we hope he lives for many, many years. Ladies and gentlemen, I also say today that he says even if he has only one listener, it will be enough. As you can see today, you don't have one listener, you have many of us here. Today at the UTS, you are among friends, believers, and followers. You come to us as a great institution which is multicultural. We have over 27,000 students from different parts of the world, different cultures, different religions, but united as one humanity. It is what makes your message today on mediation very important. Welcome to the UTS, and welcome to the company of your followers, believers, and friends. Welcome.
Thank you, Professor. Dear Venerable Khenpo Sodoji Rinpoche, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, and good afternoon, everyone. It is a great honor. Rinpoche is invited by UTS Buddhist Meditation Society to give all Dhamma friends a great speech. And here I'm on behalf of the UTS Buddhist Meditation Society in the organizing committee to welcome the arrival of Sodoji Rinpoche. In the topic that Rinpoche is going to talk about today is as energetic as this young university. Meditation in action. Buddha himself had mentioned that. Do not dwell in the past. Do not dream of the future. Concentrate the mind on the present moment. I think that is the basic principle of the meditation. And many of you may be very familiar with sitting meditation. And today we are going to receive teaching from Rinpoche about how to meditate on movement. I would like to introduce the interpreter we are having today, Dr. Karen Jiang. She had received her PhD from the University of Tennessee in the United States. So it is our real honor to have distinguished Rinpoche here with us here today. Without further ado, please join me now to welcome Rinpoche.